We're going to be talking about guys that got you to the fantasy playoffs that maybe you can no longer trust. I mean, DeAndre Swift over the past 2 weeks obviously has been horrendous. I mean, you're looking at a running back that 2 weeks back goes out there, he has 6 carries, 13 rushing yards, and you have Kenneth Gainwell seeing more snaps. This week against the Dallas Cowboys, DeAndre Swift has 0 receptions out of the backfield, which is the first time that we've seen this all season. And DeAndre Swift sitting there with a whopping 3.5 yards per carry with a minimum roll as well. So if you're sitting here looking over the past 2 weeks, DeAndre Swift really is someone that is hard to see the upside with. It's hard to see why you would be starting this guy in the first place. And I want to remind y'all, ladies and gentlemen, the past 2 weeks, well, looks like these guys falling for the Philadelphia Eagles. They've gone up against the top teams in the NFC. They played the Dallas Cowboys at home. They played the San Francisco 49ers, some of the toughest defenses in the NFL. And if you're going to go through and look at what we have seen from DeAndre Swift all season, it's very simple, right? If you're playing in a game where the Philadelphia Eagles are having a hard time offensively and they struggle and lose the game, Swift's not going to do much. We've seen him back against the Jets with 10 carries and 18 rushing yards. Now, of course, back then he got there as a receiving back, and maybe that's something we need to look at the underlying usage with and see if Kenneth Gainwell is taking more receiving down snaps. If we're going over to Gainwell in comparison to DeAndre Swift, Gainwell did run 12 routes this week in comparison to DeAndre Swift at 9. They pretty much split this backfield 50-50. And going back to what we had against the Dallas defense, Gainwell had the majority of the... I don't care. 2 outlier type games. If we're going to be looking at the Eagles going forward, I mean, it's not like they are going to have absolute cakewalks, but it's going to be much easier going up against the Hawks, going up against the Giants, going up against the Cardinals. I think we get back to Philadelphia winning by double-digit points. And in those instances, I am still going to be ranking DeAndre Swift as a top 24 running back, despite him really doing nothing over the past few weeks. I'm not panicking here. Now, someone that definitely has to fall down rankings. I mean, we just updated our rankings over on flogfantasy.com, and it's very difficult to figure out where we are going to put Keenan Allen. Because if you are looking at Keenan Allen, this is a wide receiver that is at the very top of the NFL in receptions, the very top of the NFL in targets, and in the flogfantasy.com community rankings, Keenan Allen currently is sitting at 10 overall. He's falling slowly but surely given the Justin Herbert injury. If you're looking at where I just ranked him today, I actually put Keenan Allen down at 18, more so as a mid wide receiver 1 rather than a high-end wide receiver 1. I have him behind Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, and Stefon Diggs. I may even consider moving him behind Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. I mean, Jamar Chase right in that range. I think you can move him all the way down to being a low-end wide receiver 1. Because if you're looking at this offense, I mean, it was great with Justin Herbert. Now, obviously, the team wasn't. You have coaching issues. The defense has been horrendous as well. But if you look at the underlying passing volume with Herbert in here, you actually had the Los Angeles Chargers as a top 10 team in the NFL with their passing yards. The only teams that were ahead of them were the Miami Dolphins, the Dallas Cowboys, the Niners, Texans, Bills, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, Jags. Now you have Easton Stick coming in. The passing volume is about to fall out completely. I still expect Keenan Allen is going to be a player that you are starting every single week, primarily just based off the consistent target volume that he sees. I mean, with no Justin Herbert in this game, he did still have 12 targets, 6 receptions, and 68 receiving yards. So Easton Stick will move Keenan from being an elite wide receiver 1 to a mid to low end wide receiver 1. But in a full PPR format, this is still someone you're starting. In a non-PPR league, he honestly would be lower than that because the touchdown upside wouldn't be there. I'm excited to see if they have Keenan Allen for more receiving yards than Devontae Adams on Underdog this week. Right now, they have Adams at 69.5. They have not put out a Keenan projection. I will keep you updated with that. But yeah, if you want to check out those pick'ems on Underdog Fantasy, link in the description, link in the comment section. Promo code FLOG, get you 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and an Austin Eckler special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard for Thursday night as well. Now let's go over and look at what we have with Kenneth Walker, because very similar to DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Walker has done absolutely nothing here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, the last 2 weeks that we've had Walker play, 8 carries, 21 rushing yards, 4 carries, 18 rushing yards. I mean, a few weeks prior, you had 8 carries against the Browns. You had 9 carries against the Ravens. If we are looking at all of November and December, he's had 1 game with more than 10 rush attempts. Now, the underlying thing here is obviously Kenneth Walker got injured against the Rams. Probably shouldn't have played this game. I mean, really nothing to win going up against the Niners. It's not like you are beating San Fran here. And with Kenneth Walker, he has had brutal matchup after brutal matchup. The Browns defense, the Ravens defense, now the Niners. If you look at the underlying usage, Kenneth Walker is splitting this backfield 50-50 with Zach Charbonnet. You have Kenneth Walker looking at the early down work with 31 snaps compared to Charbonnet at 13. You have Charbonnet with all of the third down usage with 9 snaps compared to Kenneth Walker at 1. So I will say that Walker probably is someone that you can't be super excited about from a full PPR perspective. But in your non-PPR league, if we get some easier matchups coming up soon, maybe you can still start this guy, even though he hasn't done anything in forever. I mean, going over and looking at the next few weeks, though, this week going up against Philly, it's going to be another really tough spot for Kenneth Walker. Another week you probably don't want to start him. But then going up against Tennessee and going up against the Steelers, there maybe you can start him. Still very tough matchups. I do owe y'all an apology because we had some people in the live stream, I want to say 2 months ago, coming out saying, Mason, we need to sell Kenneth Walker. Look at his rest of season schedule. It's the worst in the league. And I stupidly did not listen. I stupidly did not put Kenneth Walker as that sell-high candidate. I think we had him in one video, but we should have had him there consistently. 100% my fault. I want to apologize. And yeah, hopefully we don't make that mistake going forward. Now let's go over and look at what we have with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Well, 100%, these guys were not good this past week. Should you panic? No, not at all. Yeah, St. Brown had 21 receiving yards. Yeah, the week prior he had 49. The underlying volume still there. The man had 9 targets. It was just a tough game going up against an in-division rival playing away. We know football is any given Sunday. So honestly, I'm going to completely ignore what you just had from Amon-Ra St. Brown. Still a wide receiver 1. Going over to Sam Laporta, yeah, only 23 receiving yards, only 2 receptions. It sucks, especially if you were relying on this guy maybe to get you a bye in the fantasy playoffs. But it's any given Sunday. The Lions will be much better going forward. I don't think you need to go out there and panic about either one of these players. Now, someone you actually may need to panic about is going to be CJ Stroud. Now, I initially said, don't worry. While Tank Dell's going out, CJ Stroud is still a top talent, and CJ Stroud will still get the job done. We didn't really want to get excited about him against the Jets. Bad weather, horrible matchup. But now going forward, it's a much tougher spot because not only do you have no Tank Dell, you also have no Dalton Schultz for the time being. Maybe he comes back. And Nico Collins has a calf strain. So if we're looking at the updated depth chart of what we have for the Houston Texans here, running back, Devin Singletary. Wide receiver, Noah Brown, a practice squad guy for both teams. Robert Woods, a practice squad guy for both teams. Maybe either Xavier Hutchinson or John Mechie. I love the John Mechie story. Really am rooting for him to get an opportunity and to succeed with it. But nonetheless, all these wide receivers you can say are practice squad level talents. What you're looking at here with CJ Stroud is essentially the New England Patriots with a better offensive line. Like, this situation could not be worse. He's dealing with a concussion as well. Now, the Houston Texans are still playing for something, right? I mean, they don't have their first round pick. They have no incentive to go out there and shut it down, and they can still squeak in to the NFL playoffs. But it is just a brutal spot to see everything falling apart for Stroud here in this offense, with how bad this situation is. If you look at our rest of season fantasy football rankings on flogfantasy.com, I just moved CJ Stroud down to our QB 12. A lot of that has to do with him missing this next week, but I think it's very hard to project him out to be a high end or even mid quarterback 1 at this point. I think you have to look at him as a low end QB 1. Now, someone that's not startable at all, I don't want to tell you can drop the guy, but y'all gave me so much hate for talking down on Keaton Mitchell. It's a running back that continues to split the backfield 3 ways. I don't know how many times we have to update this. Yes, he continues to be very efficient on a per touch perspective. Keaton Mitchell is a small, undersized running back that is an elite level athlete. That is the perfect prototype, the perfect example of someone that can be efficient on a per touch perspective and be effective in a committee, but from a fantasy football perspective, probably not someone that's ever going to see a full workload that we can comfortably rely upon. I mean, he broke out back over a month ago at this point, 5 weeks ago, with 138 rushing yards off of 9 carries. Since then, they've had every opportunity to give him the job. The most carries he's had in a single week was 9. He's yet to hit double-digit carries. So even though he's averaging 8.5 yards per carry, this isn't someone that you're really ever going to be able to start unless they decide to shut down one of the other running backs in this backfield. I mean, you have both Gus Edwards and Justice Hill going out there and seeing 29, 18 snaps in this game. If you remove either one of these running backs and it goes from being a 3-man committee to a 2-man committee, then obviously it's a different story. Now, update on Adam Thielen. It's the worst offense in the NFL, or pretty damn close to the worst offense in the NFL. Right now, the Carolina Panthers are averaging 165 passing yards per game, which is kind of okay if you're Adam Thielen early in the season and you're going out there and having 13 targets, 14 targets, and underlying a horrible offense. You have all the volume in the world. You're able to dominate the market share numbers. Over the past 3 weeks, the man's had 16 targets. So if you're in a bottom 3 NFL offense here and you are working with 5 to 6 targets per game, you're just simply not going to be viable in fantasy football and not someone that we can rely upon. Now, I do want to just give a quick update. I understand, yes, Mike Evans was very bad this week, and we had a lot of people that were pissed at me for not ranking Mike Evans as a top 10 flex option this week. I'm sorry. The thing is with Evans and really all wide receivers, you're going to see a lot of this natural volatility. Same thing that we were talking about with Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's the NFL. It's still any given Sunday. I mean, you have your handful of wide receivers that are going to go out there and dominate literally no matter what, and that makes those guys elite. A healthy Tyreek Hill is going to pencil you in about 20 fantasy points no matter what. A healthy Christian McCaffrey is going to pencil you in about 20 fantasy points no matter what. Guys like Mike Evans, they can still be very good. They can be low in wide receiver ones in fantasy, and they can be great 90% of the time. Every once in a while, they're going to give you an absolute dud here, though, and that is just something that you have to be at least willing to accept when you play fantasy football with the natural volatility. I'm not going to be moving Mike Evans down my rankings at all this next week. Go over to flockfantasy.com and look at where I have him in my rest of season rankings. I have him there, wide receiver 7. We have Keenan, Evans, Pittman, Ayuk, Debo, pretty much all back-to-back. All guys we're still starting every week. Now, Stefon Diggs, another guy that was very disappointing, and I am not going to be worried about it too much at all. I'm still going to go through and start Stefon Diggs. Yes, the man has 4 receptions for 24 receiving yards. Yes, if you really needed him this past week, he let you down. It was a tough matchup going up against KC. If you look at the underlying target volume, he still had 11 targets. The man has 132 targets this season, is about to crack over 1,000 receiving yards. Still in a phenomenal offense, has 8 receiving touchdowns. So yeah, I'm not worried at all. Some of these guys, yeah, you need to be worried. Be worried about Adam Thielen. I mean, Keaton Mitchell, the usage isn't there. I mean, probably should continue to monitor. CJ Stroud, the situation's falling apart around him. I mean, if you're looking at Kenneth Walker, yeah, this is just a horrible stretch of games. Keenan Allen, his quarterback, gets significantly downgraded. So, like, those guys, yes, be worried about. But the random down performance from Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Evans, Stefon Diggs, when none of their situations have changed, really, there's no reason to stress there. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. And if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy for this week, find that link in the description in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, get you a 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, you will be getting that Austin Eckler special pick'em more than less than half a total yard for Thursday night. But thank you again. I really do appreciate you and really hope I get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.